So volatility is and always has been a thing. There's, you can study like, the VIX index, which is the indicator of volatility, and you can see, historically this has been not abnormal. One of the things that makes the markets certainly now more than even as recently as 2009, and you go back to 2000, and is just how interconnected the global economies are, and the things that are affecting us now that wouldn't necessarily have been as big of a push a decade ago, 20 years ago, certainly 30, 40 years ago. You talk about headlines and news and those kind of things. Not only is that so in our face all the time, and as a regular retail investor, you look at the GameStop AMCs were one of the greatest examples of mass movement in the markets because of Reddit and Twitter threads, right? Like nothing supported that at all. There's zero research that proved any of the theories and wild ideas were going to make any sense. But you get enough people, right? One person is crazy, but as a mob, it makes sense. And these people all move together, right? So one of the things I just read a couple of days ago is the volume of retail investment trades by non-finance professionals. So your Robinhood, your Fidelity account is down something like 85% from beginning of the year to now, because people, and I said this, if we'd have to go do the recall somewhere, because it was probably 5 or 6 months ago I said this, where what we're waiting for to happen, and we're almost there, which is related to the bottom but is not a bottom, is a term which is used outside the finance world, but in the finance world is capitulation, right? Which is basically just giving up. And what's happening is a lot of the retail, the 26-year-olds that are playing around with crypto on their crypto wallets on Coinbase, whatever, have just gotten tired and just are fatigued. It happens. I mean, think about, it happens in the real estate world. It happened for the last 24 months as well. And people eventually just get burned out. And that's the stuff that we as professionals in this and the big, institutional investors are waiting to happen. Because what happens is when, 50,000 people decide to go buy GameStop one day, it screws everything up. It just you have these fake market makers. And so really we've been waiting for a lot. Again, capitulation is kind of the term we've been using on and off for the last few months, is as people start to realize that this is normalcy, this isn't as abnormal and as atypical as they think it is. Because some people freak out, right? Especially if you're look around the room here for a second. 2009, all of us were around. Right. I'm fairly comfortable that more than 75% of this room wasn't directly impacted by 2009, because the 401k statements weren't getting hammered, and your retirement accounts weren't that big of a deal because they probably didn't exist, right? So while we lived through it, you didn't actually experience it. Right. This is a fairly common market cycle, again, like I said before, and I'm not talking about all rainbows and unicorns in the next 3 to 6 months. But there is definitely some light at the end of the tunnel. I think we're starting to see a little more normalcy. The outlier is still, and we didn't think it was going to affect us as much as it did since February, is Ukraine. Right. That just continues to have ripple effects every news cycle. And that's really become a very difficult thing. And, it's just like what you talk about with your success as a realtor or just your personal success in investing, whatever it is. There are so many things you can't control. And the only thing to do with those things is just ignore them, because there's nothing you can do. All you're going to do is generate more stress. And it's not that you can't, know some of these things, or we don't know what they are. It's that they're literally just unknowable. I mean, talk about January. How many guesses did we have for mortgage rates by the end of the year? They were all over the map. They all consensus agreement was that they were going to go up.
Right. And we just wait till we get into what the experts are saying for home prices for next year. I mean, you want to talk about all over the map. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that we're going to kind of go through and break down. Yeah. And only 2 of the 6 are within 0.2% of each other. The other ones are at least a percentage point, if not more, off.
Well, I think too, one of the things that is unique in the real estate world that so grossly makes your job more difficult than mine is the national economy is the national economy. The stock market is a national thing. The S&P 500, the Dow Jones, they're all based in New York City, but those things are impacted nationally and globally. The regionality and the locally specific nature of real estate, I can't imagine some of these predictions. Oh yeah, we're going to have, growth of 6.4. We're going to lose 13%. You're like, well, it took Connecticut a year and a half to get back to where we were 20 years ago. versus the rest of the country, right? In terms of how market values. So are we insulated from that in Connecticut? Like, is it going to take, is that a lagging indicator or is it a leading indicator? Like, are we behind the curve?
We're always behind the curve, right? Like when I was at this Brokers Open, we're talking about like Phoenix is up 177% in inventory, right? We're still down 39% in inventory from last year. So, I mean, depending on, and another thing too is there was a gentleman I was talking to, and he said, well, he goes, what I'm hearing, he was a lender. He goes, I think that the rates are going to go up, and then what I've been hearing is that they'll come down maybe in January, February, or March. But then you have the Feds saying, no, we're going to break this thing down, right? Yeah. We're trying to. So it's like, I guess what I have to do is you have to go with the word of the Fed. If the Fed's saying personally that they're trying to break this economy, they're trying to break the housing market, I don't think they're going to go for another 7% or 8%, who knows, for another 2 or 3 months, and then be like, okay, we're good, right? Like they've gone up from 4 to 7 in the last couple months,
3 months,
and it hasn't slowed the train down.
Yeah.
So what makes anyone?
CPI you look at CPI inflation, right? So like the thing that cracks me up is our last inflation print. Right, was basically a rounding error that created fallout for 3 weeks. Right, we were expecting 8.1, we got 8.2. Right, if we moved 1 decimal point further, we have no idea what's after the right. Theoretically, it should be 8.15 or higher, right, to get to 8.2. That's what we all learned in elementary school. But like, it could have been literally like 8.14789 or something, and someone was like, "Hey, 8.2," and that 0.1 is enough.